Okay.
Hey,
My
I wanted to go back to Maria again because I love that was a great segment right there, and I felt her heart.
Me
And
too.
the frustration, maybe even a smidge of desperation there as well. And I was just thinking about something that happened to me a couple of years ago, maybe it's almost a couple of years ago now, and I was working for Vocera at the time, and I was feeling really downtrodden. You know, things had changed in the business, and I wasn't real happy. And I was thinking, what do I want to do with my life? You know, that old thing. And so I decided to take a break. You know, sometimes it's just good to walk away. I jumped on my motorcycle and I rode up into the Topanga Canyon, which is only a few miles. You and I have ridden up through the mountain there, and one of my favorite coffee places. And I just stopped there, had coffee, and I sat there. And there was this man there, an elderly guy, who I guess I caught his attention. He came over and started talking to me, and you know, hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm a sculptor. Oh, really? Okay, you're a sculptor. Yeah, you know. Turns out he used to be an actor. I said, wait, you were an actor and now you're a sculptor. How'd you make that transition? And he said, what he said was that he'd been acting and he really didn't, he was making good money, but he wasn't happy doing it. And he thought maybe I should try something else. So rather than quit his job and I'm going to be a sculptor now, that's not what happened. What happened was he took some sculpting classes, and you know, meantime he was still acting and everything, and he ran into a mentor there that just took interest in his work and started working with him. Long story short, eventually what ended up happening was, through the help of this mentor, he was able to replace his income doing this thing on the side while he was acting, that he was able to make that switch. And he said, look, I told him, look, I'm kind of feeling like I'm like that right now. I don't know what I want to do. And he goes, look, if you just follow your passion, just like what you've said a million times, just follow your passion. Don't worry about getting paid. Just follow your passion. The money will find you.
Yeah.
So it wasn't long after that, Barry, before you and I started doing this podcast.
Oh, wow.
And this is my passion.
Yeah, mine too.
I can't wait to do this.
Same here.
When you have something that you can't wait to do, that's not work.
No,
you know what I mean?
No.
And so we're just doing this. And I don't know where this is going to lead, but I'm doing exactly what that guy said. His advice. Yeah. And if it doesn't lead anywhere but beside here, I'm totally good with that.
I totally understand. And I am now embarking on a job producing a podcast for a local college because of this podcast.
Isn't that beautiful, Barry?
Yeah, what this did for your interviewing process, we talked about a whole bunch.
Yes.
And, oh God,
not just that, Barry, but just even my sales meetings that I have. So we have these sales meetings. We never did sales meetings like this. They're much like this podcast. Yeah. And I'm like hosting this show, and I always use my video. People are afraid to use video out there.
Yeah,
always use your video like a tool. This is your tool. Your background is part of your tool. It's part of how you do this. And just, you know, having that ease of just being able to talk into the camera. People notice that as well. Yes. So all these things that this podcast and just following your dream, if it's inside of your gut, just start stepping forward with that. And that's what I would just say to Maria. Sure, there's a lot. It's hard. Everybody's got stuff. I mean, she had a lot of stuff, but all of us at this age have stuff that we're dealing with. But following your passion shouldn't be a grudge. It should actually be something exciting. If it's not, then that's probably not really your passion.
Yeah. And in Maria's case, I don't know her at all, so I can't speak to this, but maybe there isn't an answer for her other than, and my heart's out to her. I mean, this is somebody I would really like to talk to, but now on the other hand, maybe whatever she does later in the evening after she's absolutely depleted. I don't know what she does to recharge her batteries, but is it something that it's unique enough that you could turn it into something with an online training package, an online class? Like I said in the example, there's people that have done horseback riding as an online class, teaching you stuff about horses, proper way to ride them and all that. And as I said, if you only need 0.0001% of the population to purchase your class for $199, you got the whole country now, or whole world even, as an audience. So my point is, there's a lot more options available than most of our generation realizes.
Sometimes when you're in that desperate situation, it's hard to see the forest for the trees, right?
Absolutely,
it sounds like Maria's in that situation, and I loved the feedback that you gave her, because she's in darkness, right? That's what it sounded like to me. And she just, what you provided was, there was a light. She could see that light.
Maybe.
I hope. I think so, because I think you gave her a different perspective on how to think about it. And I really believe that, right now what she needs to do, and I'm not trying to be hard here, because her whole situation is hard, but I just believe this, that God gives everyone a way out. And if she can get out of the emotional area that she's in, because I could hear her emotions, and think and just use her logical mind, just like you're saying, there are creative ways out. But when you're so emotional, it's hard to be creative. And it sounded like that's a place that she was. And I say that because the one thing that she said that led me to believe that she's very emotional is that she said, if I knew that there wasn't any retirement, I would not have had kids. And that's a very emotional thing to say. I'm sure she did not mean that, because, kids, my kids in my life, it wasn't easy. I didn't have any money, but it's just with that love that's inside of your heart for your kids, provides, your heart will find ways to make it happen for your kids. If it's absolutely necessary, somehow our brains figure it out.
Very true.
I just don't believe that I just want to believe that there's a way for Maria to get out of that as well. I just believe that for her. So God bless you. I hope she's watching the show, but I want her to succeed. My heart is with her.
As you say that, she probably doesn't know of the show at all. She just saw the article and replied to it. So I'm going to reply to her. She should get pinged on it. And I'll tell her that we talked about her on the show and give her the links.
Yeah, really good. So current events. So did you see, and I didn't see a lot of this stuff, but Meghan and Harry.
Oh, God.
You seen that stuff at all?
I see the headlines. I can't stand anything royal. It's so frivolous to me. I don't pay much. I'm looking at an email.
Well, here's something that's interesting, Barry, is that, and this is why I think it's important for us to pay attention, is that there's rumblings that she's going to run for president.
Oh, get out of here.
I'm not kidding.
That's a little too far, but I did see that.
I am not kidding about that.
Piers Morgan actually quit his job over this.
He was going to get fired. Yeah, he was going to get fired. And so what happened is that she apparently called in to her people.
Brought to you by Bolt House Farms. Carrot juice. Sorry.
She called into her people, and basically they were going to let him go. And Meghan, that is, because she didn't like the fact that Pierce was saying that he didn't believe that the royal family is racist. And I got to say, one of the things that Meghan said in the Oprah Winfrey interview was, and this is both her and Harry were saying, okay, as soon as she got pregnant, that the racism reared its ugly head because they were concerned about how dark this baby was going to be. And I had to laugh about that, because I thought about, Tracy and I being married and her being pregnant with our first. And of course, Tracy's black and I'm black. And we were having discussions about how dark our baby was going to be.
It's funny. And then you got, on the other side of things, Hilaria Baldwin wants to be so much darker.
Yeah. we're all concerned about how dark we are, right? But then if we talk about it, then
we're racist.
Yeah, how
everybody.
Dude, I went to Arizona and I was looking in the mirror today and I was like, hey, I wonder if my tan's gonna show up in the video. I mean, we're all concerned about how dark or how light our skin is. So of course the royal family is going to think about it. I mean, they've not had any black people in their family for over 1,000 years. So why wouldn't that be a natural thing to think about?
Yeah.
I mean, and God forbid, but you might even be a little concerned about it. Like, I wonder if this is going to come out like as black as this. I mean, is it going to be like, how is this going to be? And I one of the things I was saying about was we were in our Bible study the other day, and Scott and I are in the Bible study with our stepfather, Larry, who's white. And Scott was talking about how great Larry is as a stepfather. And he said, he's talked about when Mom and Larry first got married and how Larry would introduce me and Scott as his, and these are my sons, Merle and Scott. And then they'd be like looking behind Scott and I. Where are Merle and Scott? And we'd be like, here I is.
That's the funniest thing you've ever said. Oh my God. I picture buckwheat on the little.
Right, exactly. I pulled my best black stuff right there. It would be so fun, and we'd laugh about it. Did you see their face?
Hey, do you remember that story you told me about your dad and your grandfather? And I think it was Scott's story, really. God, it was so funny about the time your father gave him a hug. You guys were in the car. I don't want to tell the story. I think it's
trying to remember this.
You guys were all in the car, and I think it was after church. You drop your grandfather off. Your father gives him a hug as he always.
His pants fell down. Yeah. Oh, actually,
see, I can't tell it funny.
So my grandfather was the funniest man on earth to my brother and I. We just thought everything he said was hilarious, and it was. He was quite a character, and now he was, getting up there in age and everything. My dad was all worried about him every time. So we actually had come up to Pittsburgh to visit him, and we're leaving, and a lot of times, Dad would bring beer and whiskey, and then Grandpa would be feeling pretty good by the time we were leaving. So funny things would happen on the way to the car to leave. And then this particular one, so his name was Tom, and so we saw this happen.
Thank God he wasn't your uncle.
And so yeah, right, exactly. That happens to be my middle name. So this woman is walking by, and she's about my grandfather's age, and she goes, "Hi, Tom," like that, like flirty and everything. It was me and my brother like, what? And just then my dad's giving my grandpa a hug goodbye, and he hugs him, and my grandpa's pants hit the ground. So if he must have had like $50 worth of change in his pockets, because I remember I couldn't believe how fast his pants hit the ground, and it just went cheek like that, and just standing there in his underwear in front of that lady that said, "Hi, Tom." We laughed all the way home. For like 2.5 hours. We just laughed.
And we're 30 years later, all still laughing.
Yeah, we're still laughing. Another time we were saying goodbye to him, and he backed up a little bit and fell into the bushes. My dad was so angry because Scott and I were laughing because Dad didn't think that was funny, but it was so hard not to laugh for 2.5 hours on the way home.
Well, it's so funny. It's good to know that that's where you got your sense of humor from, because I knew you didn't get it from your father.
Yeah, well, he was funny, but only sometimes.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, Grandpa was hilarious.
I am still laughing about that. Here he is. Oh God, that was funny. I wanted to tell you about. I saw in the news like yesterday. There's this Cleveland Hyperloop that's being worked on right now. And this is good for the after show. It would propel passengers. There's all kinds of drawing. You know what? I got the link. I'll show you. It would propel passengers at 700 miles an hour.
Holy cow.
Through these giant vacuum sealed tubes, a train through these vacuum sealed
tubes.
Like
a pneumonic tube.
Cleveland to Chicago in a half hour.
What?
Yes. The phase two. The phase two would be linking Cleveland to Pittsburgh, 10 minutes.
Okay, that's insane. So is it like underground, like you're underground or something?
I'm pretty sure that's the case, and I don't want to waste.
But it's a tube.
Yeah.
Wow. What a trip!
Here, I gotta show you this. Okay,
I think they have something like that in Europe.
Yeah, it's China. China is the forefront of this technology.
Okay.
As I recall, man, there's so much going on with China that
there really is.
So disturbing. Can you see this?
I can.
Okay. So this is the news report. So check this out. I know you can't hear it, but look at it. It's like a bullet.
It's shaped like a bullet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And look at that too.
Oh, look at that. It's like the Alaskan pipeline.
There, you know what? It's a giant Alaskan pipeline. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's above ground. This thing is impressive. And
it's almost ominous looking. Like,
yeah. But can you imagine like what this would do for Cleveland's economy and property value and everything? Because you could work in Chicago or Pittsburgh or whatever.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that sooner the better. I don't remember more details. I'm sure it's in the article, but I just want to get on other things. We've been all over the place here.
No, that's that is really interesting.
It's exciting, I think. Yeah. Let's see. Russia and China. Listen to this one. Russia and China just agreed to build a research station on the moon together. It's unclear when it will be built, but I got the article here, and boy.
Why would they? That does not sound good.
Well,
for
because of it's the space race, really.
Yes,
I remember
exactly.
Reading the article, and so we got this lunar thing up, and it's open to all these other countries. All these other countries have already signed agreements to come on board, but it is not open to China. It is absolutely closed to China. Forget the exact reason why, but which reason why, which of 100 different reasons why. And so Russia and China decided to do their own. And, it's all under the guise of research and, hoping to put a base up where you can launch from to go to other places, as we've always talked about. But dude, it's the space race. It's
a military thing that's happening right here. Right. Exactly. Right. We better be taking that seriously. That's all I got to say. And when you hear Jen Psaki talking, you don't get any confidence that they're taking it seriously.
Here's my hope is that she's playing it down so that they're all doing it in the background.
That's what I hope too. That would be brilliant. If that's what they're doing, but for some reason, I'm not getting brilliance out of those people.
Well, for some reason, what the doubt is because it was a Trump thing. It's stamped with Trump.
This is what's so dangerous is that if Trump came up with an idea, it's inherently evil.
It's wrong,
according to the new administration, and that's unfortunate because I think that makes things extremely dangerous. Look at what's happened. We talked about the border already. We were looking at the space, space race. China's very serious about that. This is something we better be checking out. We better be looking at this, and I would be very careful of our relationship with China. It's not they're not our friends.
No,
they're not our friends.
No, their goal is, if I recall, is it 2035 is their goal, where they want to be absolutely certified world dominating super country.
And look at all the things we've talked over this with Rex on the show before, but look at all the things they've infiltrated. And we're talking about the Chinese government, the Communist Party here. They've infiltrated academia.
Yes, they've infiltrated
they're working with our politicians. We can see that. Swalwell was sleeping with a Chinese spy, and who was it? Not Pelosi, but Dianne Feinstein. Turns out that her driver was a Chinese spy for 20 years.
Wow.
Did you know that?
No.
Our government is so, and especially in the Democratic Party, but I don't trust the Republicans either. I've only seen this happening in the Democratic Party, where they're very much beholden to the Chinese Communist Party. Our government here, our state government, their pension fund is tied up in Chinese business. So all the pensions, the taxpayer paid pensions for state employees, that's all tied up in their stock and bonds in China. So our state is leveraged by China. And so any moves that they make, any moves that they make, our future is dependent on, and that is a terrible place to be. And with this whole censorship thing coming down that we're just not getting the news that we need to be getting. And the news that we are getting is colored in a certain way that so that we really aren't getting the truth. We really have to start developing our skill today of seeing news stories and reading between the lines and looking at other sources and comparing those sources. Because, for instance, the $2 trillion spending package, if you read one source about it, you'll think, boy, that's the best thing that could have ever happened. Or if you read another source, America is about to end any day. And so somewhere in the middle lies the truth.
Hey, remember,
you just have to find out how far on to which side the truth lies. Go ahead.
As simple as the Texas weather disaster. You and I both had to dig so much to try to figure out what the truth on that was.
We really did, and thank God Rex was all over that. But if you just went by the news stories, you'd be completely confused. You wouldn't have a clue.
Two different tales, to say the least.
Exactly.
I did say it. I just want to correct that. There's so many times when I come back a week later and like I should really correct what I said the week before, because I'll find out additional information. I said that the green energy aspect of that was like 5%, only 5%. Well, I since heard it was 10%. Which is still small, but it's a lot. That's a big difference.
Well, the interesting thing is that Texas, it turns out, is the #1 leader in green energy amongst the states in the United States, and they're actually reliant. They're about 28% green energy in Texas. So, and most of that is wind, and then solar comes in after that. But yeah, I had no idea how reliant they were on green energy in the fossil fuel capital of America.
Did you hear just the other day that Matthew McConaughey may run for governor? What do you think of that?
I did hear that. Okay, I like Matthew McConaughey.
I do too.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell what his politics are.
He's very moderate.
Moderate. Sometimes I hear him and I'm like, oh yeah, I totally agree with that. And then other times I'm like, well, I'm not so sure about that. And so, yeah, he does seem like he's in the middle, but he's a guy that semes to have a lot of common sense.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
I don't think he's going to fit in well in the government because common sense isn't a thing that they have as an attribute there.
That's why
he's going to have a hard time.
That's why Trey Gowdy quit. Yeah.
Trey Gowdy, and I could see Trey Gowdy and Matthew McConaughey being friends.
Oh God, you're right on the same level. Yeah, exactly right. Now, Lisa and I talked about that briefly this morning because she wanted me to bring it up on the podcast. My God, did we go a million miles an hour and not get to half of what we wanted to talk about, which is kind of fun.
This is what makes it fun. Yeah,
it was fun. So I said, because Joe Rogan said on a podcast just not too long ago, because he moved to Austin.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, it's utopia out here. He goes, don't tell anyone, but Austin is utopia. And he goes, but I don't think that could really exist without being surrounded, it's a liberal bastion,
right?
Without being surrounded by all these Republicans,
wouldn't be able to afford it.
So think about that. Think about that. It's kind of like I've always said Canada wouldn't be Canada. They're so they got the snootiness of how, you guys need your guns and this, that, and we're so friendly here. You wouldn't be if you weren't protected by us.
Well, sure. If Mexico was at their border, it would be a whole different thing for you
go.
That was exactly right.
Better point.
You're exactly right. I mean, it's just, they wouldn't be, those Mounties would be in different uniforms. It'd be like camouflage.
You're right. And horses, forget about it.
They'd have little tanks.
So anyways, I think that's really an interesting thing. So that brings me to Matthew McConaughey. Do you want to see a moderate in Texas? Do you want Texas to take one more tiny step in the left direction?
No, I don't.
That's kind of my point. Guy told Lisa,
good
I would rather see him be governor of California.
Yeah, same here. Same here. You're right. You're exactly right. I will protect Texas. You open up that door just a little bit, and I mean, Texas is on the border the way it is right now, with all the people from California fleeing to Texas. Yeah. So, and especially in Austin, they're definitely going there. So yeah, that you're bringing up a really good point, and I have to say I agree with you. I would like to see, it's just like Florida. I want to see those states protected. I don't want them to go the other way than they already have.
But I will say, God, he loves his town. He loves his home. He loves Texas.
He's all really Texas. He's the epitome of Texas. And he just seems like a good guy, a very likable guy, and just a cool guy. He's just a cool guy.
There's only a couple guys that are actors that I think reach that kind of status. And I can only think of him and Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves has this mystique where he's just on a pedestal of being this perfect person. If you read any of I go on the Daily Mail almost every day. When I do Google News, I go to Daily Mail too, because that gives you the quick, glitzy headlines, So whatever's being pumped out, that's where I got all that Hilaria Baldwin crap from.
Oh, how about that? When it comes to celebrities, I'm so clueless. I'm just so clueless. I don't know anything really about them besides the persona that I see on television. And so I'm not a good judge of celebrity character, but I do think that George Clooney's pretty cool.
George Clooney?
Yeah, I don't like his politics at all, but he's just so cool in every movie that he's in. I just think he's.
I don't like him. I used to, but he just comes, that a lot of it has to do with a clip I've seen a million times of, Trump's never going to be president. The arrogance and everything.
I don't like his politics at all. It's nothing to do with his politics. I just think he's a cool dude. He just seems like a cool dude. I like his voice and everything.
Yeah, all right. And the other thing is, for me, is he's just him. To me, he sleepwalks through a movie. It's just him in a movie.
Yeah.
He doesn't make a stretch, except for one movie. I got to say, I absolutely loved his performance in that movie about these three guys doing bluegrass.
My brother,
yes,
that was a great movie, and I love the music too. I kind of like bluegrass,
all of it, and I loved Clooney in it.
He was really good.
It's the only time I've seen him act.
Okay, I saw a movie recently with him in. I'm not going to be able to remember the title, but it was at the very beginning of the movie. His wife is involved in this terrible boating accident in Hawaii. And the rest of the movie is how he's dealing with that with his two kids and everything. And he's really good in that movie. He's a very good actor in the movie. It's actually a very well done movie too. So I don't know. Just I always thought he was kind of cool ever since ER. Remember that?
I loved ER. Loved ER. I thought that was the best show on TV at that time.
Yeah. It was very popular and everything, and so it
was intense.
Anyway, yeah, it was intense. I don't. There's been some good shows on TV in the past, and so I know that's where I first saw him, but I I'm trying to think of other guys that I think are cool on television. One guy I've always wanted to meet is William Shatner, just because it's Captain Kirk. I mean, come on. It seems like he's getting older out there, so I hope I meet him sometime soon. There's something about my dad and Captain Kirk that go together. Like my dad fancied himself as a Captain Kirk kind of guy.
Well, he was the ideal role model for that time. Now, with today's sensibilities, all they say is, oh, he's a womanizer, misogynist, right. Blah, blah, blah. But what he was, man, he was the ultimate liberal. Idealist, to tell you the truth.
As Captain Kirk?
Yes.
Yeah. The whole show was pretty much it was the beginning of what woke really wants to be, but they'll never be.
They went way past. So far past
utopia. Star Trek is a utopian type of a movie.
Yeah, you're right.
So
you're right.
Hey, I wanted to go back to talking about womanizers. How about Andrew Cuomo? Now he's got six women.
Where were they a year ago?
That's what I want to know. Why? Okay. I get it that it's got to be hard to come forward, and it's probably a lot easier if one or two other people have come forward, and that would give you the courage to come forward. So that I get. And then on the other hand, it seems like this is a pattern, right? And it just seems like we have a group of people, elitists in the government, that when they decide that this guy isn't any good for us anymore, it's always suddenly there's 6 or 7 women that come out of the woodwork and say that they've been sexually harassed. And it's either that or there's a bigoted thing that you can just never really recover from. I mean, look at Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas, he's been a Supreme Court justice for 30 years now, 20 some years, but you still have that Anita Baker thing going on. You still hear about that. It never goes away. It's never goes away.
I think you're onto something though about
the pattern,
the unseen forces. Like, I think more or less they're stifled when they like him a year ago at the forefront being the new hero, and then they let them come out of the gate. I think they then release some of the news after they want to get a smokescreen for the nursing home scandal.
Yeah, it seems like the sexual harassment thing, they can easily tamp down and hide that behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And then it's sort of like, but if you get out of line, we got this card here, we could throw this sexual harassment card down and you're done. Yeah. And it just seems like that happened. And like you said, the news media didn't really cover the 15,000 nursing home deaths. Mm-mm. But right around the same time, all these women came out and said they'd been sexually harassed. Well, that didn't just happen yesterday. That has been happening over a number of years. So it was sort of like, okay, we got to get rid of this guy, but we can't say that he handled COVID wrong. We got to figure out another way and this is an easy way to get rid of him. Yeah. But boy, is it ever ugly. This is ugly.
And I'm sorry, right in the middle of you say that, I'm back to thinking about you going, here we is. Oh God, I laughed my ass off there.
That's great about the show is that we can just laugh just like in our normal conversations.
Yeah. You know what I want to talk about next week, and I'm just going to put it in your craw there, is I can't wait to talk about it. We just couldn't get to it this week. Lisa and I, for her birthday, and we're always in Florida for her birthday. Oh, and I'll tell you the whole story. I got her the Ancestry DNA test, both of us.
Oh, you did? Oh, mm-hmm. Okay. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we'll see. Yeah.
You haven't gotten it yet. That's right.
Right.
Takes like 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. So even filling out the stuff online, there's a lot to talk about there. Brings up some issues.
Yeah, I did mine too. Was it 23andMe or which one did you do?
I did AncestryDNA.com or Ancestry DNA, it's called. And I did all my research on it, and they just have like the widest database you get the most information from, and it's interesting. It's narrow.
I'd like to compare notes on what you found out, and I could talk about what I found out about me too.
Yeah, so I'll tell you the whole story of our initial experience with it next week. And then of
Oh,
course
that'll be fun.
yeah, we'll follow up when we get the results, which is going to be so interesting. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. I can't wait. I'm excited about it. Very
There's
excited.
there's some interesting stuff. Like, for instance, what if you're adopted? Like, my wife is adopted,
Wow.
and like, what could you find out? And could it be possible? Because like, one thing was, when I did my test, the first thing that came up was, this is your mother. It's like there was no doubt that my mom is my mother according to the DNA thing,
Sure.
And so, like, if you're adopted, does your biological mom come up, and do you want to know that? And there's a lot of things to think about here, other than just, it's a DNA test. There's some stuff you might not want to know.
Yep. And there's some stuff you might not want the government to know.
And there's also stuff that you might think about yourself in your background, and you might be totally wrong.
I remember I told you we got to save this conversation for next week, but I thought I was Irish for 54 years.
I saw a commercial like that too, where the guy had like these German leotards, like the Alps, and he'd dress up every year in this, and he found out he wasn't German.
Hey, we're going to get this DNA test and we're going to find out the truth here. Because I still think I'm Irish. I do.
You might. You look like you could be.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Hey,
go like this. Go like this.
I can't see what you're doing.
Sorry. Like the fighting Irish thing. Yeah.
The Popeye pose.
I don't know if you're Irish, dude.
Yeah, I know. Beep Dukes. Yeah, I know. I don't know about that.
That was good.
Yeah, the consumer cellular thing, man. Telling you, that's a big deal. Well worth listening to that episode for that piece.
Just for that, yeah. You could buy a car now. That car you were looking to buy.
Exactly. So, hey, what do you got going on this weekend? Are you opening up at all there? What's going on there?
No, so things are slowly, they're starting to open up. I think I told you last week, they're talking about opening day and that they're going to have people for baseball, or we're going to be able to see baseball games apparently. But as far as the restaurants go, they haven't really talked about it. The gyms are still closed. They're double talking over here. Like, we're going to open up, but if we open up, we're going to take it back from you. If any, so it's sort of like, I really don't know what's going on out here. It's really weird. We'll have to see. We'll just have to see.
I kind of been thinking, I don't have a fully formulated, but I kind of am thinking that the plan is to make California simply the land of the liberal elites.
It does seem that. It does seem that way, but a lot of the liberals are actually, the liberal, hardened liberal leftists.
Elites.
They're leaving.
Those are the upper middle class. The lower to upper. I don't even want to say lower. The lower is going to stay there because they got free everything.
Well, and they can't afford it. It's expensive to move too.
Yeah, you're going to see really what happens with the socialist society that quickly turns communist. And you're going to see the great divide in the haves and haves not, the class divide there. You're going to have the tents and you're going to have the elitists.
Yeah, you're right. And
that's what I think.
There's going to be, it's almost like you're going to get trapped here where you're not going to be able to afford to leave.
You're right.
That's the thing, is that this is why we're looking at, this isn't sustainable. What they have here isn't sustainable. Right. We talked a lot about the financial situation, and we've even talked about the legal situation. But I mean, if you're not going to prosecute crime, as our district attorney has said out here in Los Angeles County, where crime is rampant, why should we stay? Why should we pay taxes at a much higher level than everybody else pays, and then not be protected by those tax
That's dollars? Their number one, to serve and protect. That's right. Their number one purpose.
Yeah. And so, and then they say, well, we've got this homeless problem, and so we're going to build these houses to put the homeless in. And then so, oh yeah, that's a good idea, which I didn't think was a good idea, but the state voted for it. And that was years ago, and we haven't seen one house. Where did the money go? And exponential amount of homeless people on the street, more and more every day. God. So what's going on? This is like a ginormous racket going on here. Meanwhile, we've got a governor and and the mayor here in Los Angeles, they're pretty much clones, and they're constantly threatening us that, well, it's getting better, but it could get worse any second. And, it's like they're holding a gun, like, well, I might shoot, I might not, I don't know. And so we're just in this perpetual place of, we're in limbo, and it's a crappy way to live your life.
I'm serious that I really think that's the grand plan, is to
seems
get
like it.
as much of the middle class out as possible, because there's no more, because all the land, you couldn't squeeze any more people in there before. And so if they can get rid of the middle class and then have other leftist elitists take it over.
Well, that's what communism is. I mean, that's what happens is you've got the haves and the have not. There's no middle class. And,
right.
They try to portray it in a different way, but it's never going to work out that way. It's human nature. It's not going to work out that you're going to have the haves and you're going to have the have-nots. And that's the only thing you're going to have. And you're not going to have any freedom. Only the people that can afford freedom can have freedom. And even then,
it's precarious.
Rules don't even protect them either. Look at like a Cuomo guy. You make a wrong move and you're out of the club, and you're out here with the rest of us.
Man, China is so bad about doing that. They prop up. I heard about this actress. I hate talking about this stuff when I remember it, but without the particular facts, such as names and stuff. But the best known actress, and it was on a podcast that I heard about this, and they said, it'd be like Jennifer Aniston disappeared for 3 months. And then all of a sudden she reappears talking about how great the government is.
Yeah, exactly.
And they do this with scientists and all that. Their biggest businessman, same thing happened. Like, he was propped up to be like a rags to riches kind of guy.
Oh, yeah, and he disappeared. Yep.
Yep.
I know. I saw that. That happens all the time. It happens in communist governments all the time.
Yeah, because a lot of this was talking about the coronavirus government. That's what it was, is a Rogan podcast with this guy, another guy who is a scientist studying the coronavirus, who actually is on the board of whatever for the WHO. So he's in the WHO talking about how they're covering up the whole origins of the coronavirus, and that it's 90%, he's 90% sure that it was being researched in a lab and it escaped. And he says it wasn't, he doesn't believe that it was in a malevolent way, that because once again, the same thing Burt Weinstein said on the podcast 6 months ago. He's saying the same thing, is that they kind of, I'm using my terms, give it steroids so that it becomes more active, so that they can study it better in real time. Well, what that is, because a normal virus will have to jump from species to species, grow its way up from mice to kangaroos to and finally reach humans. It takes a while for it to mutate up there. Well, it was already ready for humans when it escaped the lab. So that's number one. But the cover up, and you could have saved, it's estimated 90% of the lives lost could have been saved if China would have been honest about this from the beginning.
Yeah, that's what we've been hearing. From the beginning, we've actually been hearing that type of thing coming out of Wuhan. And I do agree that I believe it came out of that virology lab out of Wuhan. It seems like everything points to that. The fact that the WHO decided to drop the investigation, and the fact that they are tied together in so many different ways, just smacks of suspicion. And I just wanted to say, do you remember the Manchurian Candidate? There's two movies, the newer one with Denzel Washington, but the first one had Frank Sinatra. And I would watch that movie again before they banned that movie. And I say that because it portrays the Chinese government in a negative way. And it seems that movies that do that these days easily get banned.
Yes,
there's a reason for that happening. But this is pretty interesting, because it was the Chinese government that in the first movie that was able to implant their people into our government through brainwashing. it kind of feels like the exact same thing is happening today.
Oh, it does.
So watch that movie. It's a very interesting movie, and it was the Chinese government that was doing all of that.
I do need to watch that. Additionally, he said about Wuhan, when you brought that up, made me remember, he said, Wuhan's like their Chicago. He goes, they're trying to portray it like it's this little tribe town and that they eat these animals. They call them some kind of a market or whatever. He goes, they don't even have, say again?
The wet market.
Yeah. He goes, they don't have those, and they don't have those bats around there.
Right. That's exactly right. We heard that as well. There's a ton of evidence that this is coming from there. And there are some very powerful people that are tied to the virology lab in Wuhan that are here in America that we've heard their names before. And those are also people that are behind the vaccination. And so there's a lot of very interesting ties. I have a feeling that we're not going to get that information unless somebody really does the job and has access to information and can do the research. And eventually we'll get that information. But
I don't think so.
I mean, I think you got to go by your gut on a lot of this stuff, because it just seems like, it doesn't seem good. It seems pretty dark and what's actually happened.
Yeah, it's an interesting time that we live in, because now information is obviously being, so if this word exists, propagandized, but at the same time, because of stuff like this, we're all able to dig underneath the things at a grassroots level and try to open things up and make things more visible. 50 years ago, we couldn't do that. Think what things were like 100 years ago. I was
just going to say something that was just reminded me during World War II, right before the atomic bomb was dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Japanese actually had their secret weapon that they were going to drop on the United States. And in fact, it would have happened had we not actually dropped the atomic bombs. But this bomb had been tested on the Chinese. Remember, the Japanese during World War II were just devastating the Chinese. And so they were testing this secret weapon on them. And the bomb that they dropped was killing large villages in China. Everybody would die. And what it was a bomb that contained fleas. It wasn't.
My God.
And the fleas carried the bubonic plague.
Oh.
And so they were dropping these bombs on villages, and everyone would die of the bubonic plague. My point in saying this is that they were going to drop it on the west coast of America, and we were going to be dealing with the bubonic plague here, and it would have wiped out hundreds of thousands of people here. The fact is that this type of warfare has been out there. This type of germ warfare has been out there, and we've done this before. It's not a new thing to think that to use a virus and use it as a weapon against your enemy. And what we saw, and if you take a look at the timeline and what China was actually saying or really not saying, and how they did not quarantine Wuhan, and they let all of those people travel all over the world, knowing full well what had been released.
Right.
It seems a lot like, and look at the country that seems to have benefited the most from this is China. So I just start following the money, and it tells the story.
Yeah, I know for sure. It looks like the sun is coming in my office here behind me, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks like if you just turn around and start walking that way, you're going to end up in heaven.
It does. It looks exactly like that. We have our own special effects here. Hey, dude, we should wrap this up.
Yeah, let's do it.
2 hours. Okay,
oh
love you, buddy.
Love you too, man.
Yeah, I can't
Good stuff today, week. Man. I'm so glad we do this every week. Yep.
Fun. Here we is.
Does